Now take the base and place it directly by the mark you made in the ceiling. Next, we need to measure the ceiling height so we can calculate if any extensions are needed. Measure from the base up to the ceiling.
I measured it earlier, Katie, and it's 2390 millimetres.
Thank you. Then refer to the chart in the instruction manual, which will tell you if any extensions are needed. Always try to use the most extensions for your height. This way you have maximum usable pole. So, for 2390, we will need 125 millimetres. Okay? One key point to remember is that the extensions always go at the bottom of the pole, working up from the smallest. Either take the lower main tube, that's the large one with a thread at one end, or an extension if you're using one, in this case we are, and screw it to the lower insert. Don't forget, if you're using more than one extension, the smaller extension, the closer to the base it goes. Tighten the tube firmly. Now attach the lower main tube. Good. Now let's put the upper pole unit together. First, take the adjuster unit and making sure that the locking nut is at the top of the threaded rod, like so. Okay. Now, screw the adjuster rod into the top of the upper tube until the locking nut is flush with the top. This takes a few moments. Thanks, Jill. Okay. This is what it looks like when it's flush. Now we need the adjuster cover. Take the adjuster cover and slide it up from the bottom of the tube till it covers the O-ring by 5 to 10 millimetres and is held in place. Finally, checking that the cover flange is mounted in the correct way up, that's with the raised part pointing upwards. Put the ceiling dome onto the adjuster. Thank you. Now we're ready to assemble the two halves. This is where an extra pair of hands are really useful. Thanks, Jill. Put the ladder next to the base and place the whole of the up assembly on top, screwing it down until it's tight. Thanks, Jill. Providing you've done your calculations with the height chart correctly, the upper support will be close to the ceiling. If it's not close, measure the distance, and if it's more than 125 millimetres, about the width of your hand, then you'll need to change the extension to increase the height. It's extremely important you do not extend the adjuster rod more than 125 millimetres. If you're happy the upper support is close enough to the ceiling, then unscrew the adjuster anti-clockwise. This will tighten the pole. Turning it clockwise releases the pole. Unscrew the adjuster until the upper base is touching the ceiling. Now you've got this far, the next piece is very important. You need to make sure that the dome is flat with the ceiling. To do this, you push the dome up against the ceiling and continue to unscrew the adjuster by hand. Don't use the spanner, just tighten and tighten firmly. Okay, having checked the pole won't fall over, you need to check that the pole is vertical. The easy way to do this is by eye. Just line the pole up against the door frame, window edge, corner or anything else that's vertical. Being vertical is important, but it's more important that the dome is flat on the ceiling. So if the dome is flat with the ceiling and the pole is a touch off vertical, don't worry, the pole will be fine. Before doing the final tightening of the pole, check the tubes are tight. Jill, can you tighten the tubes for me? Thanks. Standing on the base and starting from the bottom, insert the rod and tighten firmly. Thanks, Jill. Now we're happy the pole is vertical, the base is flat and the tubes are tight. We can fully tighten the adjuster using the spanner. The spanner has two ends, one for the adjuster, that's the small one, and the large one for the locking nut. The small end of the spanner slides into the flat part of the adjuster rod just under the cover retaining ring. Tighten the adjuster anti-clockwise until there's good pressure against the spanner. Hold the pole, not the cover, while tightening or releasing the adjuster. Now check the pole for movement. If it moves, increase the pressure by further tightening it until it doesn't move. Here's a tip. Some floors and ceilings are very flexible, so it helps to have someone stand on the base. This compresses the floor and makes the tightening of the adjuster easier. Jill, would you stand on the base for me? Thanks. If you're happy there's no movement, wind down the locking nut to the top of the pole and tighten with the spanner. Hold the pole while you're doing this. Thanks. Finally, carefully slide the adjuster cover up over the retaining ring. Push in the two spring clips and lock the cover in place. Now let's remove the ladder and try some sideways pressure on the pole. If it doesn't move, then let's try a few practice swings with your feet on the ground and your arms stretched out, putting as much weight on the pole as possible. Have a go, Jill. Try this a couple of times. You could try and take your feet off the ground and swing. If there's no movement on X-Pole, it's ready to use. If you find there's some movement, don't be tempted to use the pole. Retighten it until it's secure. It's very important to remember that because X-Pole uses pressure to retain its position, it can become looser when used. Pole tightness should be checked regularly during every 30 minutes. If there's any movement, don't use the pole. Retighten and retest before use. Also, always check the extensions are screwed tightly together. These can come undone if the pole is loose. Once you're happy there's no movement, X-Pole's ready to use.